Hello and welcome to this Edexcel GCSE Geography Walking Talking Mock, and this is looking at changing cities and is part 2. All designed to help improve your confidence in reading and answering exam questions. Now, as always, it's important that if you don't know, pause this video and read the instructions of how to make best use of it now. So following on from part 1, the next question is, explain one impact on the central business district of recent changes in retailing. The command word is explain. You've got to give the reasons, but it's why has one impact happened? Now it's 3 marks, so it's very important that you extend your answer with connectives, not just saying why or how, but going on to say what this means. So connectives such as this means that, this leads to, this causes, meaning, which, so. So you need to make sure that you've got those developed. And this is point marked, so you need one change and then the impact and then what that has led to. And the central business district, this is the key term. You've got to know what the central business district is. And it's also talking about retailing, which is the posh word for shopping. So you've got to understand the key terms. This is vital to answering these questions. So think about, well, what have the changes in retailing been? It may be, for example, the growth of out-of-town shopping centres, the big retail parks that you've got outside of the central business district or city centre. It may be the rise of internet shopping. Or you could also look at what improvements have been made in these main shopping areas, which may have had a positive impact rather than just negative. So have a think about those. 3 marks. I'm going to have about 3 to 4 minutes to answer this. When you're ready, have a go now. So if we have a look at the answer for this, we can see, don't need to write a massive amount, but growth in out-of-town shopping centres, that is the change, which offered cheaper prices and took customers away from the CBD. So it said used which to show what one impact was and then how that impact developed further on. It may be a positive, saying many CBDs have become pedestrianised. There's your change, which improves street lighting to make it more appealing to shoppers. Yeah. So you can see there's lots of different answers you could give, but it's making sure that you develop them effectively to get those 3 marks. Look at the connectives, which and some, to make them. And this all show you're developing your answers. Now we come on to the 8 marker. And it's important that we really read these questions carefully and think about how we can plan our answer. You have studied a major UK city and a major city in a developing or emerging country. Now, for us, we have studied Birmingham and Mexico City in an emerging country. Evaluate which of these cities has been most successful in improving the quality of life for its people. So the command word here is evaluate. How successful has each of these cities been? So how successful has Birmingham and Mexico been in improving the quality of life? Well, what does quality of life mean? So we've got to look at those key terms. So it's worth about 8 marks. And before answering this question, we really need to plan. What are you actually going to say in your answer? And it's sometimes good just to write down your key points before you start so you can have more flow of an answer. So to recap, what does evaluate mean? It's measuring how successful it's been. You need to say why one city has been more successful than others, and you also need to write a brief conclusion to summarize the information that you've been given. Now, structure is very important in these. I would suggest that you have a brief introduction of a couple of sentences and then use clear paragraphs for each of your main points and then a conclusion. It would also be a good idea to leave a line between each of your paragraphs, because this shows clearly where the paragraphs are, but also mean you can easily add further information if you think of something later on. So when we look at the content of the question, what have we got to do? We've got to show an understanding of what quality of life means, what problems there have been in each of the cities, and what has each city done and which was most successful and why. So it may be that you could start off by saying the problems, so they're very different in Birmingham and Mexico, but inequality, differences between rich and poor, is common. Now in Birmingham, they've got training schemes and adult education, and Mexico is trying to build more schools. But here's the evaluation. It's difficult in Mexico due to the rapid population growth through migration, and then they cannot meet the demand. So maybe the education to reduce inequality is not as successful. Air pollution is also a major problem, but both are trying to improve public transport using cleaner fuels, but the size of the city and poor infrastructure make this more difficult in Mexico. So you can see we've got what is the problem in the black, the red is what they've tried to do, and then the evaluation in the green. Now, it's important, there is no one correct answer, and there is no one correct structure for these. And don't really want to teach a set structure for answering these, because it depends on the question, it depends on the wording, and it depends on the type of things and how many different things you've got to do. The best way to do this is to look at as many of these longer questions as possible and try and make brief plans for all of them. And then that way you can adapt them to whatever question could come up in the exam. So this is a really simple structure, breaking the question right down. Okay, it's not necessarily going to get you the top marks, but it should get you into the level 2 marks. And it's important to realise that these answers are not point marked as the earlier ones were. You don't get a point for every time you've said something relevant and then they get added up. Here it is about the level marks. So it's showing that you've got elements of understanding of the theory and how they relate to places and to the possible processes involved. It's making sure that it is balanced, so you've considered different factors and given them equal weighting, and that you have made judgments. And it's really important in assess and evaluate that you do say how important or how successful something has been. To get level 3, it is really important that you also give specific evidence in there. Okay, but it is important that if you're doing well on all the other questions and you're aiming for these high level 2s, even without the specific case study evidence and just knowing the names of case studies and a few relevant bits of information, this will still get you onto grade 9 ability. Okay, do try and think of a structure that would go with it and which would fit best, but this has to be adapted to depend on the different questions and the key terms and the factors that you're evaluating. So having a quick look, here is the question again. Evaluate which of these cities has been most successful in improving quality of life. So make sure you link it to improving the quality of life. What are the factors involved in that? So it's 8 minutes. If you followed the timing of a minute a mark for the earlier questions, then you've got between 8 and 10 minutes to plan and to write this. So have a go now. So here we can see the information from the mark scheme from the exam board. AO2 is your understanding. So you would not be expected to write all of this. This is just some of the different ideas that you could get. And it is always worthwhile having a look at the mark schemes of past questions and reverse engineering them, having a look at the key bits of information and then writing an essay plan from it. So we can see that they've got some of the information I mentioned, the environmental issues. You can see that they've also looked at the differences in the problems in UK cities and Mexico City or developing cities. So this would help you get you into low level 2 just by having your understanding. But to get to the higher levels, it's really important that you start to look at the evaluation. Okay, so it may be, as you can see here, some countries are more successful because they have more money and more governance to improve it here. It may be that some approaches are more effective, whether it's top-down or bottom-up approaches. So there's a whole range of different ways you can approach these questions, but it's very important that you consider the key elements, saying talking about Birmingham and Mexico, what has been done, what the problems were with the quality of life, what's been done to improve it, and which approaches have been most successful. So you've got to effectively look at those three different elements within the question and link them together. So I hope that's been useful to you. Please look out for the other videos and walking talking mocks in this series. Thank you very much for watching. See you soon. Bye.